The day I retired was the day I started dying. Not from illness, not from accident, from something far more insidious, from peace. I had everything I said I wanted, and it nearly ended me. My name is Arthur. I'm 74 years old. And I want to tell you something that nobody told me when I spent 43 years building toward the finish line. The finish line will try to kill you. Not the work, not the stress, not the long nights, the missed dinners, the Monday mornings that came too fast. No. The thing that almost destroyed me was the silence, the empty calendar, the mornings with nowhere to go and no one waiting. We are sold a beautiful lie from the very beginning. Work hard, save, sacrifice, delay, and one day, one quiet, beautiful day, you will be free. Free to rest, free to sleep past 7, free to finally live on your own terms. So I did everything right, every box checked. 43 years at the same company, pension secured, kids grown and settled, house paid off. And on a Friday afternoon in October, they gave me a gold watch and a handshake. My colleagues clapped. Someone brought a cake with my name on it. I smiled in every photograph. I drove home that evening feeling like I had won something real. By Monday morning, I was already starting to disappear. The first few weeks were wonderful, I'll give them that. Coffee without rushing, mornings without alarms, long walks, books I hadn't touched in years. I thought, finally, this is what I earned. But somewhere around week 6, something shifted. I woke up one Tuesday and I had nothing to do. Not in a vacation way, in a different way. In a way that sat heavy on my chest before I even got out of bed. I woke up one Tuesday and I had nothing to do. Not in a vacation way, in a different way. In a way that sat heavy on my chest before I even got out of bed. I lay there staring at the ceiling and I realized no one needed me to be anywhere. No decision required my input. No problem would suffer if I stayed right there until noon. And instead of feeling free, I felt invisible. That feeling didn't leave. It grew. Here are 5 ways that retirement quietly destroys you. And I don't mean that as a metaphor, I mean it literally, backed by science, by documented research, and by what happened inside my own body and mind over 3 years, because nobody warns you. Nobody tells you what happens when you stop. The first way retirement kills you is identity collapse. For 43 years, when someone asked, "Who are you?" I had an answer. I was Arthur Kellerman, Senior Project Manager at Harrington Industries. I had a title, a desk, a calendar full of things that required me specifically, a purpose the world could see and name. The first time someone asked what I do after I retired, I hesitated. Actually hesitated. My mouth opened, and the answer wasn't there. It had been there every single day for 4 decades, and now it was gone. It sounds trivial. It's not. Your identity is your operating system. Strip it away and you don't just lose a job. You lose the entire architecture of self. You lose the answer to the most fundamental question a human being can face. What am I for? Studies show that identity disruption after retirement is one of the strongest predictors of post-retirement depression, anxiety, and accelerated cognitive decline. This isn't just a feeling, it's a biological event. I remember the first time my son introduced me to someone at a family gathering. He said, "This is my dad. He's retired." And I watched the way that other person's face shifted, just a micro-expression of polite dismissal. A slight rearrangement that said, someone with no current relevance. And I felt it too. For the first time in my adult life, I was defined by what I no longer was. The second way retirement kills you is cognitive shutdown. The brain is not a reward organ. It does not benefit from rest the way your muscles do after a long run. The brain benefits from use, consistent, demanding, purposeful use. Remove that, and it begins to quietly power down. I noticed it first at dinner, about 4 months in. I was trying to describe something to my wife, a book I had been reading, and I couldn't find the word. Not a complex word, a word I had used hundreds of times throughout my career. It was just gone. I stumbled, I pointed, I rephrased. My wife waited patiently. In that pause, I felt a cold wire of fear run through my chest. The research is clear. Retirees who disengage from intellectually demanding activity show measurable cognitive decline within 12 to 18 months. Verbal fluency, executive function, working memory, all of it drops sharply after full retirement, particularly in men. I started watching television to fill the silence, 8 hours some days. I told myself it was harmless. It was earned. I was resting. What I didn't understand was that I was feeding my brain nothing but noise. No challenge, no consequence to being wrong. No problem that required my specific experience to solve. The brain, like every organ in the body, atrophies when it is not used. I was getting slower. I could feel it happening in real time, and I was too comfortable to fight it. The third way retirement kills you is physical collapse. In 18 months after my retirement, I gained 31 pounds. I didn't eat dramatically differently. I simply stopped moving with intention. At work, even a desk job, the body has a rhythm it doesn't know it depends on. You walk to meetings, you carry tension. There are biological deadlines. Cortisol peaks and drops. The body activates and settles in response to the demands of the day. I used to come home tired, real tired, the kind that earns sleep. When all of that disappeared, the body didn't celebrate. It sagged. I started sitting differently, slouching, moving less between rooms. There were days I realized by 4 in the afternoon that I hadn't stood up in 3 hours. Cardiovascular health deteriorates. Muscle mass drops faster than you think. Sleep quality declines because your body has no real reason to be tired. And then poor sleep feeds cognitive decline. Cognitive decline deepens emotional decline. It's not separate problems. It's one cascade. I had annual checkups throughout my career, clean numbers every year. 6 months into retirement, my cholesterol was suddenly a problem. My doctor asked what had changed. I said nothing. I was wrong. Everything had changed. I had traded biological engagement for biological stagnation, and my body was showing me the invoice. The fourth way retirement kills you is social starvation. Here is something that doesn't appear in a single retirement brochure. Work provides 90% of the social interaction most adults experience. Not family, not neighbors. Work. The casual conversation in the hallway. The complaint session by the coffee machine. The colleague who notices when something is wrong with you before you do. When you retire, that all ends. Almost immediately. My former colleagues called the first week. A few called the second. By month 2, the phone was quiet. Not because they didn't care, but because life moves forward. They were still inside it. I had stepped off. What I was left with was my wife. My wife is a wonderful woman. But 2 people cannot be each other's entire world. The narrowness of it, 2 people, 1 house, the same routines, it starts to wear its own kind of groove. Social isolation in retirement is not a comfort problem. It is a documented medical problem. Research compares the health impact of severe loneliness to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. It permanently elevates cortisol. It accelerates cognitive deterioration. It shortens life by measurable years. I didn't feel lonely the way you imagine loneliness. Dramatic, obvious, crushing. I felt muted, like the volume on the world had been slowly turned down. And somewhere along the way, I had stopped noticing it was happening. The 5th way retirement kills you, and this is the most dangerous of all, is the purpose vacuum. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz and wrote this: "Those who have a why to live can endure almost any how." He also wrote that the greatest danger to a human being is not suffering. It is meaninglessness. Men who retire early die earlier, not slightly. On average, 5 years earlier. This finding holds across multiple studies in multiple countries. Purpose is not a philosophical luxury that some people choose to pursue. Purpose is a biological necessity. Remove it, and the body begins shutting systems down. And here is the cruelest part of the retirement myth. We are told that purpose is something we earn the right to escape. That after enough years of service, we graduate from needing a reason to exist. We don't graduate. We never do. In year 2 of my retirement, I was not waiting for death, but I was rehearsing for it. I had stopped making plans. I had stopped caring whether outcomes happened or not. I was existing without direction, and my body was quietly, faithfully responding to the only signal I was sending. Nothing left to build here. In the blue zones, the regions of the world with the highest concentration of people who live past 100, people do not retire the way we do. They shift, they scale back, they mentor, they garden, they teach one afternoon a week. But they maintain the one thing that keeps the engine running, a reason to wake up with intention. It was my granddaughter who cracked me open. She was 9 years old. She came over on a Sunday afternoon, walked into the living room where I was sitting with the television on and a cold cup of coffee beside me, and she asked, completely without guile, completely without cruelty, "Grandpa, what are you building?" I didn't have an answer, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt something other than that soft gray numbness I had grown used to. I felt shame, real shame, the kind that comes from seeing yourself clearly for a moment, without excuses, without comfort. And shame, it turns out, was the medicine I needed. I didn't go back to my old company. I didn't pretend I was 45. But I found a community college nearby that needed someone with 4 decades of project management experience. I started teaching 1 evening class per week, just one. And the first time I walked into that classroom and 22 people turned to look at me, not out of obligation, but because they were there to learn something, I felt it. The thing I hadn't felt in 2 years. That I was needed, specifically, for what I knew. I also began mentoring a young engineer. 2 hours every Thursday morning. He sends me questions the night before. I think about them. I didn't save the world, but I saved myself. Because what I learned, late, genuinely late, but not too late, is this. There is a difference between rest that restores and rest that decays. Toxic retirement is not about working too hard for too long. It is about stopping too completely, too suddenly, with nothing left in place of what you removed. The body needs movement. The brain needs challenge. The human soul, whatever that means to you, needs purpose. The most dangerous retirement is the one where you believe the lie that you've already done enough. You haven't. Not because your work was insufficient. Not because you didn't earn your rest. But because you are still here. And as long as you are still here, there is something in you that the world has not finished with yet. A lesson that only you can teach. An experience that only you carried through the years. A pair of hands that know something a younger pair of hands doesn't know yet. I am 74 years old. I wake up every morning at 6:30, not because I have to, because I built something worth waking up for. I am not the man who sat in that dim living room watching cable news until the world went quiet around him. I am the man who chose, late but still in time, to be fully alive until the actual end. If you are watching this and you are 45, 55, 60, I am not here to frighten you. I am here to say this clearly. Plan for retirement. Please plan carefully. But for the love of everything you have built over this one life, don't plan to stop. Don't plan to stop being someone who builds things. Don't plan to stop being someone the world needs to hear from. There's a link in the description, a simple form. If you've felt any of what I described today, if you've watched someone you love slowly disappear into retirement, share your story there. Your experience matters. The next video on this channel might be your voice. And if this reached something in you, subscribe, because the conversation we're having here is the one that changes things.